Welcome to the Innovator Series. Excited to have Theo Nasser with us today. Theo is co-founder and CEO of Right-Hand Cybersecurity, a Series A startup funded last year with, I believe, 5 million, and incredible origin story for Theo and his business. So welcome, Theo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
I'd love to start with your background in cyber. I know you spent some time at FireEye and SonicWall. What attracted you to cybersecurity? What were your experiences with those companies?
Sure, I kind of fell into cybersecurity, Aaron. I started at FireEye. This was when FireEye was operating independently prior to the Mandiant acquisition, prior to many other acquisitions they made. So it was a much smaller company. It felt like a startup when I was there, but still hundreds of employees and growing rapidly. And my role there had a few different roles, but I think kind of the role that I was in for the longest and definitely had the biggest impact on my career was when I was helping FireEye expand its global security operations centers internationally. So I helped build
Wow.
4 out of the 7 global SOCs at FireEye. We were essentially standing up a 24/7 follow the sun security operations where we could service any customer for any security incident they had anytime, day or night. And this was when managed detection and response was not yet defined. We
Yeah.
definitely saw ourselves as one of the pioneers in that space. So that was where I spent the majority of my time at FireEye.
That's an incredible place to cut your teeth. I'm sure you saw a lot of edge cases and ways in which detection can fail and monitoring can fail, and you just kind of iterate through to improve and make it better.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
And so you spent some time at FireEye, then you moved on to SonicWall. Similar experience or different role there?
So SonicWall was more of a traditional sales role. So I moved into a sales leadership position as part of kind of this whole time where I was with FireEye and then on to SonicWall. I was actually based overseas. So I was based
Oh
in
wow.
Singapore. I spent about 6 years with majority of the time was with FireEye, but also a short stint with SonicWall, where I was based in Asia Pacific. Majority was in Singapore, a bit in Tokyo, a bit in Australia, bounced around quite a bit. But it was during that period where we were standing up all these different security operations centers. And that was a very, very fun, very fast paced and
Very
high
cool.
learning environment.
Yeah, and just what a great life experience too to spend
It
that
was.
time.
It was.
What made you want to leave that career path and start your own cybersecurity company?
Yeah. As part of the role that I had with FireEye, it was really around spinning up and launching these almost like think of it as like a mini business unit or a mini startup, right? We were taking a
Yeah.
template that we had back in the US, and the role was building out these security operations centers in each of these different regions. And so I was kind of the liaison back to all the HQ teams and the different business units, all the way from the facilities and construction team to actually physically stand up this building, all the
Yeah.
way to the operations team that were involved in obviously the service delivery and the training, and actually the reverse engineering, the investigations that took place inside the SOC with the people. So got to
Yeah.
really learn, I'd say, just business end to end through that role. It was really, really a fantastic experience. So that's where I think I first started gaining interest in around starting a business and trying to leverage anything that I learned during that period. But I would kind of marry that with why did I land on what I'm doing at Right Hand right now, and I'll quickly summarize just what we do at Right Hand because I think that's important context for our origin story.
Yeah.
At Right Hand, we really focus on helping organizations strengthen the human risk layer across their business. So we want to help organizations identify which individual users, which departments, which groups and segments of their workforce are most risky. And we are able to then provide these interventions or these in the moment nudges. And what
Yeah.
this does is then ultimately changes behavior, which leads to a reduction of security alerts and burden on a security team. So, through that vision of what I wanted to do at Right Hand and what we've now built, it really started when I was at FireEye in the SOC. And, I had a front row seat into some of the largest companies in the world and frankly, some of the largest security incidents and
Sure.
data breaches. And it was kind of during that period that we would realize that these organizations were doing a lot on the perimeter with their security posture and their security program, but there was still a massive gap that was being faced, and that was at the human level. And
Right.
a lot of organizations at the time, they were really looking at security awareness as more of a compliance checkbox exercise. They need to achieve some type of regulatory attestation or regulatory standard, and so they were implementing something that achieved that. But
Yeah.
what I had kind of noticed was there was a gap to have more of a security-led approach in a human risk management company or a security awareness company. And so that's kind of been our North Star at Right Hand is, yes, we are part of the security awareness industry and the human risk industry, but we're really trying to lean in to building a security first company to achieve security outcomes for our
Yeah.
customers. And then therefore compliance will still follow.
Like technology's always been the easy part of this business is people that's way trickier. And I think your timing is right. And I think the industry is almost waking up to this sort of vector of, human behavior is probably the thing that we need to spend the most time on now. So,
Absolutely.
um,
I think it's going to be a very exciting year.
so you saw this, you recognized the risk and sort of, jump ship and just open the company, or how did Right Hand come to be?
I wish it was that easy. No, so I'm a first time founder. This is the first company I've started, and at the time, just remembering back to that period, roughly 4 years ago when I was making this decision. My wife and I were expecting our first child. We were living in a foreign country in Singapore, but this was definitely something that I knew I wanted to do, and something that I felt very bullish on and very confident about. I had my network in Singapore. I'd been there for 6 years at this point, so I felt very comfortable just with kind of my surroundings. And even though I'm from the Bay Area, for me it was almost a lower barrier to entry for me personally to start a business in Singapore than it was just going back to where I'm from in the Bay Area. So that's what I did.
Oh, interesting.
I actually incorporated Right Hand first in Singapore.
Wow.
But what went through my head is how do I de-risk this for myself, for my
Yeah.
family, for anyone that we bring on board. And I enrolled into an accelerator program in Singapore.
Very
And
cool.
I met my co-founder there at that accelerator program, and the two of us went through this 6 month process where you essentially become matched with a co-founder, someone who complements your skill set. So if you're an aspiring CEO, you want to find another aspiring CTO or someone who can
Yeah.
complement what you bring to the table. And I was in a warehouse room for 6 months with at the start there were 100 of us,
Wow.
99 others, and everyone teamed up. So there were 50 teams forming
Okay.
50 companies. And through this 6 month process, it was almost like a workshop where, at the halfway point, the facilitators of this program, they would actually interview, and they would have check-ins throughout the first 3 months, but they would have a very important check-in halfway at 3 months.
Yeah.
And at that point is when most of the companies would essentially like that was the end of their program. They would not continue for the 3
Oh
months
my gosh.
afterward.
Just
So
kicked off the island. It's just like,
it was you could say it was a little bit. I always used to joke, just like telling the story to friends and family years ago, it was like a blend of the Hunger Games and The Bachelor, because on one hand you're very much trying to appeal to these other folks that you want to work with, and you're trying to find the right co-founder. You're trying to pick the right co-founder out of 99 other people in this
right.
warehouse. But at the same time, based on the structure of this program,
Yeah.
at the end of the 6 months, only so many will remain, right? They can't
Yeah.
choose everyone to go through the 6 month program. So after the 3 month mark, the 50 companies turned into about 10.
Wow.
So 20%
That's a huge. Yeah. So
continued
you
on.
so you guys
Yeah.
made the cut. You guys in the top 10.
We made the cut. The next 3 months were it was a pretty big shift. At the end of the program, they did like a big demo day. We were in an auditorium full of a couple hundred investors, and the idea was in the 6 month process. The first 3 months were just kind of formulating a team, an idea, a thesis of what you wanted to build, and try to gain as much traction as possible. You had that 3 month check in, and then if you continued on,
Yeah.
You legitimately needed to be build a business case about why you were going to be a sustainable company, and it ended at the 6 month mark with a fundraise. So you
Awesome.
now entered into a demo day. You're in an auditorium with hundreds of investors. I had like a Shark Tank style 2 minute pitch with a big monitor
Yeah.
behind me, kind of with my pitch slides. And 2 minutes, I had to move on, and then the next company, next founder came on stage, and
That's
that
awesome.
was a big milestone for us. We were able to raise our seed round at the
Yeah.
on the tail end of that demo day, and that
Yeah.
was really what launched Right Hand, and it gave us the opportunity to hire and really start kind of compounding some of the momentum and traction that we were building around our product and the vision for what we saw.
It's an incredible story. It's like, I imagine there's some reality producer watching us right now, like taking notes. Like, yeah, this is like Shark Tank, but meets like a longer series. This could work as a show to do this. Yeah. So, coming off that, you got to feel pretty good. Talk to me about like, you mentioned kind of the thesis of the platform, but tactically, like, what is Right Hand? What did you guys build that was so compelling and that sort of so many people rallied around you?
Yeah, well, security awareness has been around for a long time, so we're not completely reinventing the wheel here. Like, there was a lot
Right.
of just kind of market momentum around the human element of security and hardening and strengthening the human element of security. But just the gap that we saw was the approach that most customers and platforms took. Most
Yeah.
companies and platforms took. It was really more geared around that compliance exercise, and the more CISOs and security folks that we talked to, there was this desire to be able to do something different. There was a desire to be able to do something more, and I always go back to this concept of let's be a security company first.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we can help our customers achieve security outcomes, they will still achieve their compliance outcomes. So many, just historically, traditionally, the security awareness industry, I think you could argue in some cases, a lot of it is a content play, right? It's who's got it's about
Agreed.
videos and e-learning, and that's all extremely important. Right. But if you can achieve a security outcome and a security need with a security platform that we're building, and
Yeah.
still help an organization achieve compliance, I think you can build a much stronger value proposition for that customer than if you were only satisfying that tick box exercise. Because what's ultimately going to help you change behavior, reduce risk, and make an impact for the business? We think it's the former, and that's really why
Yeah.
we're focused on that.
I couldn't agree more. So, like, give me some use cases of like these like aha moments of like, oh yeah, we do this, and now the companies, their employees now know don't do that anymore. Like, what are the great use cases out there?
Well, I'll even take a step back earlier than that. One of the things that I think we do that is unique, and also where this industry continues to head is when we're educating and training users, we don't only rely on the phishing simulation performance or their compliance training performance. We do those things, but we also integrate with third-party security tools. So a lot of our customers use endpoint products. They use email security solutions. Maybe they route all of their alerts and different tools through a SIM. Maybe there's a DLP or a data loss solution that's been installed. What we do is we integrate and collect and ingest all the alerts from these different third-party tools. And the idea is that looking at real world behaviors and real world risk, we can identify what user is risky for what reason, and we can nudge that user in real time. And so we integrate with communication channels like Slack, and workforce tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams, and of course email. And the idea is if a user plugs in a USB stick, and that it's a rogue USB stick that definitely does not belong in the corporate issued laptop, we can nudge that user in real time if that's an alert that we see on the EDR that routes into our system, and so that user would be notified, and you can kind of change and impact the language of how you want to delay that message to the user. But it's a much higher likelihood of that nudge impacting behavior change than if the organization, the customer, was just sending one size fit all. Everyone every January receives the same e-learning training at the start of the year as a compliance exercise. So we like to complement both with one another to really focus on changing behavior.
Very cool. So this is the stock getting alerts. Oh, that Joey again, picking up USB sticks off the street and plugging it in. Let's call. Let's nudge him again in Slack, or let's tell
We
him to
yeah
stop.
we try I mean we don't want it to be naming, shaming, blaming by any means. Like that's not the
Yeah.
goal of what I hope or think any security awareness and human risk platform is trying to do. We're trying to really foster a culture and more of a collaborative environment. We want users to feel as though they can actually communicate with the security team, and the security team obviously wants to be available for the users as well, and you want that relationship to exist. So that's a big piece of what we do. So there's different tactics around gamification and just kind of communication and outreach styles that we implement to make that a little bit more
Very cool.
consumable.
A lot of
But
social engineering and sort of emotional IQ math going on in that workflow, huh?
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say we're outside of maybe some phishing simulations. We're not trying to socially engineer the users. It's more of how can we just positively influence behavior through
Yeah.
in the moment relevant nudges.
Very cool. Very cool. I assume the reception of the platform's been as positive as the initial excitement.
It's been positive. Since kind of the story that I was previously sharing overseas. So I've relocated back to the U.S. The company has grown tremendously over the last couple of years. We did go on to raise the Series A that you noted at the beginning. That was raised about a year ago. So the company we are now a U.S. based entity. And we still have remote offices, employees. Many customers still exist overseas internationally. So we do operate on the Asia Pacific time zone and here, of course, to our customers and team in the U.S. And so we're very excited to further introduce ourselves to everyone at the conference and everyone who's interested in learning more about what we do.
That's great. Well, thank you, Theo. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for being here. Super excited to meet you at the Innovate Summit at the end of the month. And since your story started, your daughter or son is now 3. Is that right?
Daughter's 4 and our son is
4.
2. Yeah.
Oh, wow! Congratulations. So
Yeah.
you have
Thank
you have three
you.
you have 3 kids. Then you have the daughter, the
I've got
son,
3 babies at home. That's right.
and right hand, and everyone's roughly the same age. So that's all, you got your hands full.
That's right. Thank you.
Super exciting. All right. Well, looking forward to seeing you in person. Thank you for doing this, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.